Hey everyone, this is Chris and Sandy Bent with the Chris and Sandy Show. We get up close and personal with some amazing guests throughout the entertainment industry. And today, like I say on every episode, we have a great one for you. Who do we have?
We have Lisa Durupt with us today. She is an actress, producer, and entrepreneur. You can catch her in the film Time for Them to Come Home for Christmas, which was executive produced by Blake Shelton. The movie will premiere on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries on November 27th. She will also star in the upcoming Lifetime movie Christmas with a Crown, which she executive produced, and that will premiere on December 8th.
And we're excited to talk to her about that and her life and more. Yes. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
I always like to start the show out the same way. As you know, the last 18 months has been rough for a lot of people, especially entertainment.
Oh, yes.
So how has COVID affected what you do, and what have you done to get through this?
Well, full disclosure, I had a baby. I figured if it was going to be a year to take time off, I was like, this is kind of brilliant. And right? We already
right. Good timing there.
Such a crazy idea in the pandemic, but we already had one, and she was coming up to that. We were hoping that it all lined up, that she'd be around 2, and we had the second one. And yeah, I think also quarantining, a lot of wine. We went, so definitely had a baby. I myself have a film training studio back home I'm just outside of Vancouver, Canada. And so the studio, we were able to keep it open because it does qualify as a school. So the studio, I mean, we had social distancing and masks and all of that. But we were able to run during the pandemic. So we were quite busy with the school/studio. And and then with having the baby, I think how it really affected me entertainment business wise is I just got really careful about what I was willing to do and not do. And I ended up taking quite a bit of time off because with a newbie, like it wasn't the place to be on set, even though there's girls and all that. I went once and I went, I'm good for a while. And so I took quite a bit of time off, but I don't know, it affects everyone differently, but I had a really great experience, which is probably not what everybody wants to hear, but I had the hormone.
We like to hear all the experiences because we've had a great experience too, because we launched our show January of 2020.
So smart, right? Like so smart.
Right,
so it was like, our original plan was to do maybe 100 interviews. Our first year, we thought that'd be a great foundation. And
That's a lot.
And then COVID happens, and we thought it was a lot. We thought that would be pushing it.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And then when COVID happened, I told Sandy, we need to step this thing up because everybody's going to have time to come on our show now.
You're a competitive human when that was your instinct. It wasn't like the world's in chaos. You're like, dude, we got to step it up.
and because of that, last year we did over 300 interviews, and we're over almost 500 now.
Congrats. That's awesome.
So we did step it up.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Pandemic was good for you guys.
Like I said,
Silver lining.
We couldn't, like I told Sandy at the beginning of that, I was like, well, we can't change a pandemic.
Right.
No. All we can do is,
make the best
of it.
And
we just said, you know what? We're at home anyway, because that's how we do the podcast and all that. Let's just make the best of it and get as many people we can on the show.
Good for you too.
So, a lot of people would ask, when did you know you wanted to become an actress? I like to go deeper than that. When did it click that this could be a career?
Oh, good question. I didn't really ever know I wanted to be an actress. I genuinely was going to be an athletic therapist.
Oh, wow.
I was going away to school to play hockey when I was, for university, for college. I was going to Minnesota, but I kept dislocating my shoulder in my grade 12 year. And so my mom just suggested taking some easy classes. I'm from Winnipeg originally. I'm not sure if you know where that is. Pretty much straight up from Minnesota. So I just thought if I took a couple easy classes and got my shoulder fixed, it would be more beneficial going away to play hockey later as opposed to being on the bench the whole time. And so I took an easy theater class and fell in love. Like, it was just one of those moments. I remember watching Chorus Line because I was such a geek for, I did my homework, all that. I was that person. And so those studios go to see this show that I have to do this review on. And I remember seeing this girl, her name's Amanda Haynes. She's a teacher I think she was a musical theater teacher back in Winnipeg, and she was playing this character because it was just the local stock musical theater company, and she was playing that. I think it's Val Dance 10 Looks 3. Tits and Ass is the name of the song in chorus line. It was fan kicking and belting your guts out, and I was like, whoa. I want to do that. And my boyfriend at the time was like, yeah, okay, sure. And then I went home and told my parents, and my mom went, yeah, you and 3 million other people. So the first time I got a big check for acting, I was like, just put it on the fridge.
Yes. Like
me and 3 million other people. So yeah, it just something clicked, and I resonated more with the theater, musical theater. I think the athleticism behind it. I never really got to that dance level, but it was just the challenge of it. So I went home and I ditched the hockey scholarship, and I suddenly started doing 9 hours of dance a week, a few hours of singing, enrolled full-time in the musical theater program, pardon me, and just kind of worked my way up, and then was right place, right time. I was in a musical or stage combat class, and the stunt coordinator for Manitoba Film was the teacher. He got me into stunt work even before I really got into the principal acting, as you would call it. And it just kind of went from there. But
so you snuck in the back door, basically.
And I was old by standards. I was already like 18, 19, going to dance classes with 5-year-olds. Like that was a very humbling part of my life. So yeah, but I just knew something in my brain just went, this is so insanely challenging. And I'm going to go from this world that was completely opposite way of life to now suddenly, boom, I'm going to the arts, which is just so awesome, but extremely difficult. So it was, it was that sitting watching Chorus Line, and I went, this
is it. I love that story, and I love that you did it, even though your mom kind of didn't back you on that idea. Because again, I like to hear stories like that, because I want parents to, when they're watching, because we bring a lot of child actors on our show.
Oh, we do.
And and almost every one of them to make it as a child actor has the parents that they moved to LA and everything to help that child out. And so I want people to understand, like, just because it's not your dream for your child doesn't mean it's not the dream for them.
I just think if your kids really want to do it, they're going to find a way, regardless of what age they are. They're going to find a way. And and even me having the training studio that I have, I get asked that a lot by parents, and I just tell them, if your kid really wants to do this, they will tell you. You ever seen a kid that wants something and their parents say no? Like, they will find a way. Because I get a lot of that, like, the parents are splashing on my Instagram and stuff, and I'm like, your kid will figure it out. Just support them or don't, but they will figure it out. My parents were cool. I think it was unknown to them. My mom was a school teacher. My dad had a very, government job. So it was very different to them.
And a lot of times parents, another thing too, that I think parents don't understand, and this is whether it's in acting or in music, as parents, they see your big stars, and then they see the people that's been trying to do it for 20 years and broke. But they don't realize there's actually many levels in between that, where a child can actually create a life, and people would never know who they are.
Well, it's kind of like if people open a business, say you open like a mom and pop shop for, you sell your everyday milk, bread, all of that. Not every single one of those is going to be on the Forbes, what is it, the 500 list or what have you. Like, there's a 2% margin for sure that have that lifestyle, but there's a lot of really successful working store owners or business owners, and it's the same with acting. I think there's just this really weird way that we look at it as artists when you're first starting out, that it's like you need the big boom of Hollywood and this and that, or nothing. And it is a really interesting business where there's so many different avenues and so many different ways to have a great life. So I think that comes with time, though. You don't see that. Everyone just sees the flashy part. You don't see the business side of it a lot of times, or the grinding it out for some people. But yeah, parents just care. They don't want you to fall on your face. Right?
I mean, exactly. And again, we're not putting parents down here, but
no.
Sometimes I think they need to kind of sit back and say, what if their child is that child? What if?
Exactly. But again, if they are, they will find a way.
Yep.
Exactly. They're meant to be Natalie Portman. They will be Natalie Portman. Right? It's going to happen. Just go with it.
It just would be easier if they would get the parent support. But like you said, they'll make it either way.
They'll still do it either
way. Totally.
So what are some hobbies you like to do outside of acting?
Well, I'm definitely into sports. I love because I grew up doing that. If there's a sport, then I definitely do it. Like I still love hockey. We got my daughter's getting into soccer. I played a little bit of soccer growing up, not a ton. We love to go hiking. We're big fans of outdoor. My husband and I were big fans of going outdoors. And so we got, I don't know if you guys know what a burley is. It's like a little push thing for your kids. There's Thule and then there's burley, but you can have all kinds of attachments. And we just got the one that you put skis on. So you can go cross country skiing and snowshoeing and all of that. And then I'm very artistic as well. So I love to draw. I love to paint, all that kind of stuff. Pretty much anything artsy, I'm a total geek for, which is odd because I'm very athletic, but I'm also very creative that way. So anything to do with either, it's a very general statement, but I do a lot. I don't know. Right now, I would just love to sleep because I have a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old. So there's that.
You have a 2.5-year-old and a 9-year-old. Yeah.
Wait, are you two a couple?
Yeah,
we're married. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I did not put 2 and 2 together. So
we've been married 19 years.
19 years. You worked together and you didn't kill each other in the middle of the pandemic? You are
You know what's funny? We've been 24/7 couples since we married 19 years ago.
Yep.
Oh, I love that. I love that term because my husband and I are like that. Like we're very always together. Like love hard, fight hard, all of that, but just always together. Yeah. So that's 24/7.
And what's funny about this is before the pandemic, I mean, through every year we would have those people that would say, y'all need to be apart. Y'all need to, you depend on each other too much. Yeah, this and that. It's unhealthy. It's this and that.
You're just like, y'all need to stay out of my business.
we homeschool our 9-year-old.
Yes.
That's also a bad thing from what a lot of, and every year we would hear this. And then all of a sudden the pandemic happens. And we're like, looky here. Here it is. All these people have told us we need to live like them.
Yeah.
And now they're having to live like us.
Isn't that crazy though? Like you're genuinely living the way people lived for who knows how long. And now everybody's going to have to start to resorting back to that. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Good for you. Good for you. I mean, I still have to walk every now and then if we work together.
I mean, I can't say financially it's been great doing it this way, but we make it work.
We'd do whatever it takes.
But look how many people have so much money and they're not happy. So if you're happy, that matters, right?
So
you got a roof over your head, you're doing pretty damn good.
Doing what we love. Yeah.
And doing what we love too.
Yes.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Oh, now I see why there was that competition of we got to do more because you guys were married. You can push each other that way. Like, you're really intense for a coworker.
Yeah. Because there are times where I'm on, with this show, I don't care who you are. When you're a creative, you always want it to be bigger than it is. Always,
of course.
But isn't that how people succeed though? Is always because if you just said, "Oh, this is cool," it would just kind of die.
And sometimes she has to pull me off that cliff because I'm like, okay, this is not working. It's not going well. It's not. And then I'm on that cliff, like ready to dive over. Like, okay, it's over. I'm not doing this. And
you're more like me. You're more like me. You're more like me. And she's more like my husband because my husband's the kite to my string or the string to my kite, right? Like the kite's always the one that's like up here and the string every now and then is like, simmer down. We're going too far.
But see, there's a place for you and I because I have to pull her up too,
Totally.
Yeah. Balances out.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's good though, but that's how you know you're with the right person, right? Because 2 kites wouldn't work, 2 strings wouldn't work. It would just be chaos.
It would.
Well, haven't we got it all figured out? Yay to us.
Yes.
And I always tell people, I'm not saying, I don't preach that you should be a 24/7 couple. I'm just saying it works for us, and a lot of people don't. They're like, I could never do that with my spouse, and I'm like, and I'm always like, have you tried?
Well, that's it too.
And again, not everybody has the luxury to be able to do it. We've created our life so we can do that.
Yeah.
But again, I get it. But at the same time, don't put down what you don't understand because again, I think if people, because I think in this day and time, what I see in marriages is they don't spend enough time. I'm not saying they got to spend 24/7.
Oh no.
But people don't spend enough time.
There definitely is a disconnect. And now with all the, devices we have between what do you have? Like an iPad, a laptop, a computer, a phone. Everything. And then you add kids in the mix. Like there's just so much time that you don't spend with each other. And my husband, as long as I've known him, we've known each other since we were 23. He's a little bit younger than me. So we were 23 and 26. We met in musical theater class. Oh, wow. And he always says to me, the best currency ever is time. And that's what we don't tend to think of. We think of like financial stability, but he's like, if the fact that you can spend time with your kid and still have a roof over your head is more valuable than, maybe buying a Ferrari.
It's funny you say that, because earlier we went to one of them trampoline parks and in the middle of the day. So today. So
today,
it's one of them things that you can't do if you're always working.
Always working. Yeah. No, that's interesting, because that's how we've definitely structured our lives, is we try very hard to, he runs another business himself. He has an escape room. And then I have the studio, plus we're both into producing. And so it's just a way that you can pick and choose. Like, we work really hard when you're working, but we want to be able to be there for them, because they're only little ones, right? And I don't want to be that kind of mom.
So fast.
But I think sometimes an actor, that can be hard, because then you might say no to certain things, or you might not even, fight for certain things. But at the end of the day, I'm like, my daughter's not going to care if I did one more project. She's going to care that mommy's there to make pancakes or whatever it is.
Yes, that's
they couldn't care less. I remember there's that amazing interview. I think it's the Alec Baldwin podcast with Kristen Bell. Her talking about like her kids couldn't care less that she's on Frozen. And you're like, really? Like, they don't think it's cool. She's not even allowed to sing to them. And I was like, there you go. That's what humbles you most, is your kids. Like,
yes.
So that's
I love that. Now we got talked a little bit about the kind of the great side of this. I like to go the other way and talk about the sacrifice, because a lot of people, they see the glory behind the big actors, the glory behind the big artists, but they don't see the grind, the sacrifice, the tears, the struggles it takes, not just to get to the top, but even a career within entertainment. I always want to talk about that, because it's so tough. So tell us a little bit about some of the sacrifices and struggles you've had to make to even get here.
Well, I think the first thing is just having to move away from my family, because the film industry, the way it operates, is there's only so many places in North America that you can live, that you're going to be really in the game, so to speak. This idea of being, able to tape from anywhere really just started with the pandemic. It was sort of percolating before, but I don't know how serious casting would take it. So as a Canadian being up in Vancouver, we live in this huge hub for film. But, I had to move to Vancouver. So I'm, 2 days drive or a few hours flight with my family. And so that's a little bit tough. But I think with, the way we have with social media, or our devices now, we're able to connect more with FaceTime, what have you. So that's great. But that doesn't replace one-on-one hugging your mom, right?
Right.
So that's been a big one. I was really lucky that Michael, because we met together, met and moved together. So that was a nice, I guess, buffer, but it still was hard. Yeah. And then also I got into this later. I was up, and I still am, against girls who have been doing this and have the relationships with casting, with producers, what have you, since they were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And I started when I got into it by fluke at 19. That was my first job. I did an MTV movie with all people, Lizzie Kaplan, who's a really successful actress, but I didn't know at the time, right? It was just like, oh, this girl's cool. And Brooke Dorsey, who does a ton of Hallmark, but I really fluked into it. And then I have always been kind of playing catch up ever since. And so there's an element of always having to prove yourself. You inevitably will always get typecast, because then casting knows where to put you. So then you're always trying to figure out how to get them to see you maybe in a different way. And sometimes that's good. And sometimes you realize it's not that cool. Like, I did a horror show this past year. I don't think it's not coming out yet, so I probably can't really talk about it, but I did a horror show, which was very different for me. And it wasn't as fun, because it's so every day. So this thing that you fight for, you finally get it. You're like, this is really fascinating. Whereas at least if it's comedy or more of the lighthearted genre. So I think just you're always kind of fighting for your next job. And then also too, I think it goes back to that idea that wherever you get, that's never essentially enough on some level. Like, you always want to strive for more, which on a positive note keeps moving forward. But then at the same time, you never really feel like you've gotten to where you think you should have gotten by now.
Yeah.
Even though other people are like, oh, you've done great. And you're like, this is never enough, because somebody's always ahead of you. And it is that way. So.
And we get exactly what you're saying, because, here it is, people like Bobby Bones have been in radio all their life. Ty Bentley been in radio all their life. Kelly Clarkson, even though she just launched the show, been in entertainment all her life. And here it is, I just turned 50. So we found this passion
Yeah.
when I was 48 years old. And it's like,
Isn't that cool though?
so it's like trying to catch up, like you said, trying to get to know PR companies that can bring
Oh
our
yeah.
clients on our show
All of it.
and all that. And I think we've done a good job of it so far. But like you said, we're always playing catch up.
Yes.
But that's kind of the fun part too, is I think there's a certain part of my temperament that thrives on someone saying no to me, because then suddenly it kicks into overdrive. Because a friend of mine says, you always, whenever someone says no to me, there's a little voice in my head that goes, say no to me. And I see it now in my daughter. I'm like, oh dear God, what are we in for? But it's true. There's just this little part of me that genuinely enjoys.
And it's one way that they say no versus, I mean, you can say no, but it's the way they say it sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And yeah, I mean, the hard part of the business is there's one, you watch a movie, there's 1 or 2 parts that, you might be an option for. And there's probably in total, if it's a bigger show, like 3,000 people, and everybody wants to be that person. But at the end of the day, only one person can do it. And so it's hard. It's hard not to fault others when they get stuff. And you're like, you have to genuinely be happy for them, because no one goes, and same with you guys, no one goes into this business to fail. So you have to learn to celebrate other people's successes so that they in return can do the same for you when you're doing well. So
exactly. Yeah. I love that. So tell us a little bit about how you got the part on Heartland.
Oh man. Well, that one was really interesting, because initially they wanted, their description was someone like Jennifer Lawrence. And I just remember thinking like, Heartland, you're kind of swinging for the fences on that one. Like, that's a big fish to fry. Like, are you sure? Yeah. But initially they also wouldn't see anybody under 5'6", because everybody on that show is insanely tall.
Oh wow.
And they're all like these gorgeous statues. Like, they're just, Gabe Hogan, like Michelle Morgan, like they're all just very tall. And so I was by no means in the mix, and my agent just kept bugging them. And he's like, I got this girl. She's got the sassy attitude and like this is the temperament that you're looking for. And finally they went, okay, fine. And then it worked out. But initially I was brought on because one of the characters was looking to leave the show. And I found out very quickly when I was there that she was now wanting back on the show. I'm not sure why. She's a sweetheart, and I totally agree. Like, she'd been there for years. So it ended up being a little bit different situation than we had thought, but it worked out for the best, because for the little while that I was there, they put me with Gabe Hogan, who I had worked with in Hallmark, and they just saw instantly him, and I just adore him. Like, I always kind of think if I had a big brother, it would be someone like Gabe. We just instantly hit it off and banter and have fun. So they went, wait a minute, let's move her over to this storyline. And then so I just found out, like everybody else would, I got a phone call saying, hey, they really liked your tape and they're flying you out. And I went, okay. It was cool. It was a lot of fun. I mean, this season, the storyline went a little bit differently. So I wasn't back this year. I wish I was, but I wasn't. But I see where they're going with it, and they were cool about it. It totally made sense. And I went, okay, great. But for the few I loved it. It was awesome.
That is amazing. Now tell us what you can tell us on the 2 movies that's coming out. I know that you're limited on what you can say, but tell us what you can.
Yeah. Well, which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with the Blake Shelton one.
Yes.
And how was working with Blake Shelton been?
I never got to meet him. I was genuinely so excited. And this is the thing. Whenever you see that someone's an executive producer, they may show up and not to slight him, but they may show up for a little bit. But a lot of times by the time you start filming, that work that they put in has already been done. Like, now it's a case of, we've created this thing, we're happy with the content, all the players involved, and now go do your thing, director, producer, people on set. So I didn't meet him, but it was funny because I was so excited when I heard about it. And on Heartland, I had worked with Victoria Pratt, who actually married Trace Atkins, and they're buddies. And I had all the conversation ready. If I ran it, just like, cause you would probably get like 3 seconds to talk to him. And I thought, what, I could just throw it that I know. No, I never saw him.
That's funny.
But I heard he's really great and he's a lovely guy. And the fact that it's the 3rd installment of this Yeah, there was
series.
2
Oh, wow.
leading up to this. The way he's laid this out is really smart, and he's got cameos and he's got all kinds of stuff, and it's a really smart, really well done show. So it was exciting to be part of it. And there's still hope. Maybe one day. Blake, call me. Just kidding.
Yes.
Who the hell are you?
It's like get your agent to push.
Totally right. I know. Yeah.
Say
No,
get your people to call his people so that you can meet.
Like, I'm sorry, whose people? My people are busy. We've got a lot going on.
So how about the other movie? Talk a little bit about that.
Movie.
The Lifetime one.
Yeah, Christmas with a Crown. This one was exciting because it was my very first time executive producing, and it was something I'd been wanting to do. And if anyone listening that's getting into producing or is a producer, it's such a stop-start process for a lot of people, because just when things start, it's always, it's going to happen, it's not going to happen, it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. And so it was really nice when this did work out. I had been working on a show with Rachel Lee Cook on Netflix film called Love Guaranteed. And we got talking about producing, and a camera guy overheard me and said, "Hey, I've got this friend who's looking to get this show going. You should talk to them." They were in Edmonton. And I said, "Okay, great." And so I met up with a gentleman named Dylan Pierce, probably the nicest man in the world. He's a director. And we met at the Whistler Film Festival, and we just kind of laid it all out and agreed that we were going to do this. And he was so gracious about walking me through the whole process. And when it came down to it, I learned so much on the show. And then about a couple weeks before, we still didn't have our male lead, because it's interesting, trying to lock in a male lead for a Christmas movie a certain time of year, they're all locked into everything already. So we learned, kind of the hard way, that it's a case of like, you're suddenly going like, who knows who? And one of the producers was like, "I know Marcus Rosner." And I was like, he'd be perfect. And so then, so then he jumped on board. I think we went to camera in March, and he jumped on board in like February. It was crazy. And then, it was just a labor of love. And it was right before COVID hit, and we just squeaked it out in time. Like the day we finished, they locked everything down. Like we just squeaked it out.
Wow.
Yeah. And at the time, we didn't know where it was going to land. We did what's called an acquisition. And it was it's this great story about, it's cool as an actress, because, you always kind of see those Prince Charming movies, and I got to make a Prince Charming movie, and Rosner was such the perfect Prince Charming. Like he just looks like he's right out of royalty.
I mean, you got to create a role for yourself.
Yeah, totally. And so it was just, the whole experience was a lot of fun. And it's it's just a feel good Christmas movie. And because Marcus has done this before and I've done this before, it really just was kind of, it's like putting on a pair of shoes that just fit really well. You went, this is great. This is going to be awesome. We're going to have a great time. And even though the world was kind of going chaotic around us, we were able to finish it. And so we were just super jazzed when Lifetime picked it up. And I think people are really going to like it, because I haven't done a lot of Hallmark. So I get a lot of questions like, when are you going to be a lead? You're not in control of that. I wish you were. So it was a way to just not only, kind of give back to the fans that have been so supportive of me in the Hallmark realm and Lifetime realm. But it was just a great first introduction for me into producing and learning so much along the way. So that was something that I definitely fell in love with, that side of it, and kind of steering more towards that as I move forward. For sure.
Definitely love that. So as you know, a lot of people see the actors, see yourself, but they don't see the teams behind y'all. In our opinion, the teams never get the love they deserve.
Don't.
On our show, they get some love. So take a few moments to tell us about the team that helped you be who you are.
Well, definitely I have to, where to start? My first acting teacher, who deserves all the credit, Annalie Ames. She, kind of smacked the theater out of me with love. Theater's great, but it's a different medium, right? You just got to shift gears. And so she was fantastic. So Annalie Ames, thank you for that. My current agent, Dylan Collingwood, he puts up with so much for me. I am constantly texting him, constantly emailing him. And he really is professionally the string to my kite, because he keeps me balanced for sure. Yeah. Sometimes I'll, be like, what, blah, blah, and he'll just answer back, is there a question in there? And I'm like, oh, you're right. Like, he's just really good for me. And, my PR team, Kat's PR in LA,
we love
so
them.
Fantastic. And then my management team, I'm with Bold in LA, Bold MP, and Jason and Annalisa and Michael Kalita. They're all so great to me. I'm very, very fortunate. But I think the biggest teammate is my husband, because no one ever talks about their spouses who you're in a weird hotel room in the middle of somewhere trying to do a makeshift, camera setup, and it's, 2 in the morning, and I'm calling him after set, and he's got to wake up to be the voice on the Skype thing or the Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Or I remember one time years ago flying to an awards show, and I was flying because I was working in Winnipeg, so I was flying from there to Toronto, and he got there first, and I was so tired, and it was late, and before he could even say anything, he'd open the hotel room door because he got there first, and he's like, "I got food for you over here."
Oh,
he's
wow.
like, "Here, I got pajamas over here," and I was just like, "Oh my God, I love you!" Like,
oh, perfect.
So that would be the ultimate teammate to me, is my absolute rock and support system.
I get that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. We always reference, like, it's a team. It really isn't, I might be front of house, so to speak, but he's the back of house for everything for me. And he's so smart. Like, he coaches me on everything. He's wicked talented when it comes to story. And he's a kick-ass producer. So he's a really good human. So yeah, I'm absolutely so lucky to have that whole group.
And, we've interviewed enough people who are married to where, outside of entertainment, I used to think it was the opposite. I'll be honest. I thought entertainment marriages were just crap. And yeah, because you listen to the media, and you see what
crazy story,
and since we've been interviewing so many people, we have learned that it's actually the other way around.
It is.
There's a lot of couples that do like we do, where they work together with entertainment, and that's been amazing.
I think it really is healthy, because I think the one thing that your spouse really does for you is call you on your, can I say shit on they call you on it because they just
know you.
Right?
They know you.
He knows if I'm faking it. He knows if I didn't learn my lines properly. He knows if I'm just not getting to where it needs to be. And he'll tell me, like, I think right after our first child was born, Everly, I said to him, I was frustrated. I wasn't really booking a lot. And he's like, yeah, but you're not spending the time you used to spend. And that's okay. You're a mom. Like, you're busy.
Right.
So you need to carve out that time. And if it means, maybe not watching an episode of something, or maybe giving up, don't go to the gym today. Like, just take that time to work. And I was like, and of course, you never want to hear. It's like someone telling your boss that you're like, oh, you don't want to hear it from them. But they're right. And then you circle back to it. And it did make a difference for sure to get my head back in the game. But
that's like anytime I'm in that mode where I'm like, I'm just quitting. Her first words are always like, no, you're not.
Snap out of it.
Yeah, totally. You're like, no, you're not. I always think too, whenever I say something like, I'm quitting, because we all do. We have those moments.
Oh, yes,
I wouldn't announce it if I was serious, right? Like, you wouldn't say it out loud if you were serious.
You would just do it.
You would just do it.
Yeah, like when you totally. Like, when you decide that you're doing something dramatic, like cutting your hair, you just do it. You don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's always like, it's like when people are like, I don't give a care. I'm like, if you didn't care, you just wouldn't talk about it. So it's like, normally when I say I'm quitting, it's like the ultimate sign that you care the most, because you're just so frustrated about something. But for me, it's gone with it always like an hour. I'm like a little retreat.
That's about me.
Rebound, totally.
About an hour, and then I come back to my senses, and then I all I got to do is go back through and look at some of the guests we've had on the show, and I'm like, okay, I can't quit.
Totally.
Because we want to get a Blake Shelton on the show eventually, and sometimes it's frustrating. It's like breakthrough.
I'll hook you up with calls.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
And speaking of teams and family, we have a third co-host, our 9-year-old, that we let ask a few questions. So Sandy's going to go get him, and our 2.5-year-old daughter, when she gets older, 4 or 5 years old, when she can talk good enough, we'll be plugging her into the show too, because we are a family show.
You could just create questions like on a mat, and whichever question the little kid smacks, that could be the question. You can totally incorporate her now.
Yeah, she could hit it, and I like that.
Just create like a whole. Have your 9-year-old create the questions, put them on the table, and then whichever one she smacks, that's it. No questions asked.
But she's part of it.
Love it. What are their names?
Well, the 9-year-old is Christopher.
Cool. Love it.
And Caitlin is our daughter.
Oh, I love that little kid.
And she's a little Miss Diva already, and he'll tell you that.
That's good. That's good. You don't want to push it over. That's good. Hi, Christopher.
Hi, Lisa. So, what's your favorite food?
What's that?
What's your favorite food?
My favorite food. I'm going to say, ooh, that's tough. There's two. I love anything like authentic Mexican food. I'm such a geek for that. So any kind of like real like not American or Canadian tacos, like real Mexican tacos, or burritos, anything like that. Any day of the week. But I also am really learning to love Indian food because of the spices. My husband loves to cook. So I love a good palak paneer, which is pureed spinach. So it doesn't sound exciting, but I love the taste of it. So most people will probably agree with the Mexican thing. So definitely Mexican.
And yours?
Mine is pizza.
Really? What kind?
Pepperoni, sausage, and supreme.
He's got 3 faves.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's like sometimes pepperoni, sometimes sausage, and sometimes the all-out supreme.
Yeah. It's just got to have meat. You got to have meat on pizza. It's weird to me when it doesn't. Right?
Exactly.
Cool.
So what's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show. Ooh. Well, right now I'm really into Yellowstone. I love it, love it, love it. But I think overall, my favorite TV show that ever existed would still be Seinfeld, which is way too old for you. You're not going to know what it is. But it to this day is like one of the best comedy series ever. So Seinfeld.
And yours?
Mine is SpongeBob.
Sweet. Who's your favorite character?
Patrick.
Yes, thank you. That's what I'm talking about. I love it. Right?
Yeah.
And what's been cool about our show is, again, I wish my parents would have done, it wasn't technology like this, but it's really cool because, he watches a lot of Disney and Nickelodeon shows. So we've been able to bring a lot of people from his shows onto our show. Like recently, we just had the big Disney star Ava Coker on.
Oh, cool.
And that was pretty cool for him to get it. So it's really cool that we get to bring people that he kind of looks up to from the TV on.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, your parents have a pretty cool job, buddy.
Yeah.
Sure beats what my parents did.
Mine too. I love my parents, but again,
yeah, right.
But if they'd had this who knows where we'd be if they had this kind of technology back then? Because we wouldn't. Sandy and I would have met. Because Sandy and I actually met online.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you know? Like, when did you know she was like the keeper?
We knew. Basically, well, put it to you this way: we met online February 2nd of 2002, which was taboo back then. Okay. We talked on the phone February 4th for the first time. Okay. We set a wedding date February 18th, and we met in person March 4th. So we were meeting in person to see who we were going to marry. We just knew.
No way. That's crazy. You guys need to write a movie about that. That's awesome.
Well, right now we're writing a book on.
Hold the phone here. You guys set a wedding date like days after you met?
Basically 16 from the moment we chatted online. It was 16 days later.
What? Oh my God. When you're ready to make that movie, you call me. This is amazing.
and to add fuel to the fires, I went through 19 years of addictions and until I've been sober almost 14 years now. But the first 5 years of our marriage was really hectic on her, but she was the angel that I needed to heal through all that process.
She's your Nicole Kidman. You're Keith Urban and she's your Nicole Kidman. That's amazing. So you don't need celebrities. You're basically celebrities. That's fantastic. That's awesome. Cool.
All right. So what's your favorite movie?
Oh man. My favorite movie of all time, and again, you're so young and lovely, you're not going to know it, but my favorite movie of all time is Fried Green Tomatoes from years ago.
I like
that.
Sandy loves that one.
So Wanda, it's my favorite. It's like the best.
Mine is the Minions movie.
Yes. Oh man. See, how can I top that? You win. You win, buddy. That's so good. I always think like who are the actors that get to voice the Minions? Because they spend hours in the booth just going. Like, that's the best paycheck they've ever earned. It's so good.
Bye, thanks.
Bye, buddy. It's nice to meet you, Christopher. Oh, man,
he's been on almost every episode.
He's
but
so great.
But right now we're trying to write a book called The Unlikely Show because this, again, we've never been in radio, never been on TV, and we feel like this is an unlikely show.
Yeah, completely
from an unlikely couple.
Yeah.
Because when you because
You
again
just
she
gotta
never.
brand yourself as the unlikely show y'all should know. Like it just put it out there in the world. That's great. I think I think it's super cool what you've done so far. Like the fact that you said you started it like later on in terms of career wise, that's when it's exciting though. You have the life experience, you know what you want to do. It's way better. When think about it, when you're 20, like you don't know what the hell you're doing. You literally fumble through life. You hit your 30s hoping like, come on, this is gonna work out. In the 40s, finally you're like, okay, F it. This is what we're doing. And then
exactly, because
Yeah.
we're both in 40s.
Yeah, and that's like last year. She probably couldn't have done this in her 20s, but last year, through this pandemic, she had to spend 4 or 5 days in the hospital for them to remove a 14-pound fibroid.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It
And
was crazy.
Tell me that he still made you do the podcast because you had episodes to put out.
Well, I did it. What was it? A week after?
Yeah, the week after she was ready to get
next week we were doing shows again. Literally.
Good for you. See, you guys are going to be just fine. You're going to be just fine. I don't feel there's a lazy bone in either of your bodies. So you got this. That's so cool.
What are some sources of inspiration for you?
Oh, wow. Probably one of my biggest sources of inspiration is a dear friend of mine. She passed away, unfortunately, about 5 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh man, no, I guess it was 2015. It's almost 6 years. It's been 6 years. Her name was Susan Livingston, and I met her when I was getting into the whole musical theater thing, and I found a dance studio that was willing to teach older dancers. And she was a school teacher who taught a little bit underprivileged area, so to speak.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
It was a tougher school. And so she brought her students because they really wanted to take dance classes, but they didn't have anybody to take them. So she brought them.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She paid for them. And so she was just this lady there was a kind of like a mom and me class. And she was just that lady that was in that class. And just by way of, I thought she was fascinating that she was probably, 15 years older than us. And she was a little bit larger lady and just her zest for life and just driving these kids every week. So she became a really big inspiration to me. She ended up passing away of breast cancer. She fought it for a couple rounds. She was great. And then, but she just had this way about her of.
Yeah, Sandy went through cancer.
Oh,
yeah.
At 19.
Right? It's just crazy. It's crazy. Well, congratulations for coming through it with flying colors.
Yeah, they told her she probably would never have kids because of the type of chemo she had to have.
And her 2 children.
Children later.
Right? But yeah, Susan was just this she always looked at everything very glass half full, and I found that really inspiring. Because I think it's really easy to get bogged down with everything in life.
It is.
So that would probably be one of my main focuses of inspiration. But I think also too, just my family's been through a lot in terms of, we have alcoholism in our family. We have had a lot of people pass away just from different reasons. And through it all, my family, especially my parents, have been really fantastic about being really honest with us about what's going on. But then at the same time, also being very careful about protecting us. And so I think family is a huge inspiration to me that way. I think career-wise, dear God, Bette Midler, come on. If we could all that woman does everything and so well. I think that career-wise, I would say definitely Bette Midler. If only.
She's amazing.
Right?
Yes,
cool.
absolutely. And what would you like your legacy to be as an actress and as a producer? What would you like to be most known and remembered for?
Oh, wow. I've never thought about that. You guys are good at this. I would say probably she was fierce, but she was fair. So
love that.
Love that.
Because I love, and I'm going to butcher it, but I love that quote by Tom Hardy where he talks about, some people will say I'm this way and some people will say I'm that way in terms of how you treat them, but believe them both because I treat people how they deserve to be treated. Basically, how you treat somebody is what you get back. And I think that's really fair because I'm a very fun, easygoing, playful person, but I also can be extremely direct and authoritative when I need to. And I don't use that often. But I would just say she was fierce, but she's always been fair. And she's fun. I'm a very
yes, yeah. Oh, love that.
And all have F's in there. I love that.
Yeah,
right? That's right. F it. F all of it. That's my legacy. Brilliant.
And if you could say anything to your fans and followers, what would you want to tell them?
I'd say thank you. Thank you for being so great and sticking with me and the support and the love you get. I just always find it amazing when people take the time out of their day when they don't even know you to send you nice things or to touch base or to check in what you're doing. There's just, you can't really explain it if you haven't been somebody who's had that type of support, but it almost takes your breath away because there's a million things other people could be doing. And the fact that they take the time to find out what you're doing and to send you words of encouragement if they sense that something's off or to just even, support. I think and also sometimes I get feedback from people, I liked this, but I thought that was, and I was like, okay, cool. Thanks. But I actually kind of value that because it's nice to keep you in check. So I would just say, thank you.
Because there's a difference between feedback and trolls.
Oh,
I don't bite like the trolls. No one cares enough about me. And to be honest, even if they did, I think the one thing if I had a superpower, it would be that I have a really great ability to turn off that part of my brain that worries what other people think. And I don't know. And I say that with love, like I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but I think that's something I think it comes from sports, to be honest, growing up playing sports.
They teach that.
Yeah. You can't care. It's not about that. It's about being part of this team. And so I'm really okay with I've only really read something awful about myself once. And then I realized never to read anything about yourself. Yes. And it was like when I first started, somebody made a comment about what happened to Kristen Bell's face. Because they thought that I was Kristen Bell in a poster.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I was like, what did happen to her face? I don't know. But no, and I was like, no, I never need to read anything again. But that stuff, I just don't bite because it's not going to make or break whether or not I get up in the morning. And also too, if you're working, you're working regardless. So it's cool if they like it. And if they don't, thanks anyways. There's a million other things to go watch. So yeah.
One of the quotes I remember that kind of goes along with that I always loved is that if you're rising, be humble. If you're falling, don't let it go to your heart.
Totally. And that's the other thing with this business is anybody who expects to never feel that sensation of things are not going well is totally out to lunch. Like you will have years that are so fantastic and then other years where it's like, did I have a career? What happened? Like and I think the psychology of being an actor is so important. The idea of it's the mental game because it's really not the work that'll drive you nuts. It's the ability to just push through when things are not going well or to be able to look at it honestly, why they're not going well, that will make or break you having a longevity because you'll stick in it or you'll quit. You stick with it or quit. So,
So what's been your hardest role to play?
Ooh, probably it depends on how you look at it. My hardest role that I think I ever did comedically was my very first role because I was brand new. I was suddenly thrown into this world with these comedic geniuses. It was called Less Than Kind. It was a comedy series. And anybody who's familiar with Superstore, I think he plays Glenn on Superstore, Mark McKinney. He was Kids in the Hall and he wrote for SNL. He was on SNL for a while. He's a kind of Canadian comedic treasure. He was our showrunner. And so day one, that's who's writing for you. And I was just thrown into it. And so that was a tough one to kind of get my feet wet in the sense that I really wanted to get it right. Whereas looking back now, the fact that you got it and they were supporting you was you're fine. But at the time, I think it was just the anxiety and nervousness. So from a being difficult point of view, that would have been one that took a while to ease into. But I would say probably, one that was really close to home that was a little bit more challenging would probably have been when a little indie I did quite a while ago called Pregoland, because it dealt with these sisters that had not a very great relationship and it dealt with infertility and all of that. And at the time, I really didn't know what it was like to try and have a baby. It wasn't even in my world at that time. I didn't even want kids. And so that was to try to tap into that. If you're not somebody who's experienced that, I felt like it was a little bit harder because I wanted to do it justice, right?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
That's a very common problem for women. And I didn't want to feel like I was just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of conversations with friends who had been through that, and
Wow.
that, which was really heartbreaking. It was very enlightening, and I think it all came out really great in the end. But to get in that mindset, I really did have to talk to a lot of people. And that
being
was,
an actress makes you have to be more understanding to all walks of life.
Totally. You have to be, and also you have to look at everything from a point of view of people's behavior and go, well, why did they do that? Like, you can't just, think that that's the wrong choice. You have to try to understand why they thought that was the right choice. Because that really, they always say with acting, if you choose love in terms of, in a scene, it's always going to be stronger. So even if they're the worst human being possible, right? Like, even thinking of Zach, what's his name? Oh, he was in High School Musical. He played, he just played a serial killer. Now it's eluding me. But
Zac Efron.
Yeah, he just played. What's his name? The horrific guy. Oh, but he had these gorgeous blue eyes. But he was an evil monster. But even you think of something like that, like you would have to try to really understand why this gentleman really felt like he was doing the right thing. And so I think as an actor, that's your job, is to figure out, try to understand, not figure out, but try to understand people's behavior, which makes you, I think, more compassionate human every day, because you really start to look at other people differently, as opposed to maybe like in the road rage situation. If you're mad at somebody on the drive, cut you off, it's like, well, you don't know the deal. Maybe someone's in labor.
This show has caused
they'll get fired if they don't get there. You don't know.
Yep. And this show has caused me, especially me, to rethink the way, because I've had certain beliefs through my life and all that, and I've always been one of them that only focused on my beliefs, what I felt and all that. But this show has opened the door to where, okay, we have so many different people with different beliefs on the show. We've been able to dig into their stories, and it's helped me become a broader person.
Well, there's no right way to do anything when you look at it. There's a million different ways to do it, but what works, just like we were talking before about the homeschooling and all that, like what works for one doesn't always work for others. And it is sometimes, it's hard, right, to have compassion or to try to understand, but it's especially right now where the world is like so divided. You have to keep reminding yourself, like, figure out kindness for you, and just be kind and
the bad thing is you try to be kind and be compassionate, so you look like you're directly in the middle, and you get attacked from both sides.
Oh yeah, you can't. That's where you just have to. That's where you have to tune it out. Like, tune it out at that point. Yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way.
So what's been your most fun role? And then we'll end with one more question.
Sure. That was so Canadian. Did you hear that? Probably, it comes out every now and then. Probably my most fun role. Oh my God, I had some doozies. Probably the latest one would have been definitely Denise from Love Guaranteed. She was just a spaz in all kinds of ways. And when they first cast it, or when they were casting it, the description was they were looking for somebody going through, not literally going through menopause, but somebody who could actively be going through menopause in their 50s. Okay. And they loved the character Rita off of Parks and Rec, who's a very large Black woman. And so when that was the description, a large Black woman going through menopause, and I was like, what the hell am I doing going through this? So I love those ones though, because those are kind of like, I call them freebies, where you just throw whatever you want at them. Yeah. Because at that point, you're basically hoping something lands, but you don't know. And so I just chose to make her the day drinker who's got the sip at work, and they went for it. And it was the director is so funny and such a good guy. And Sean, who played my cohorts at work, he was just such a dream to work with. And so definitely Denise. If Denise could come back, I would play her forever. She was everything that I'm not. Like, she's the massive day drinker. She's just couldn't give a crap about anybody. She's great. So
love that. So let's say you had a friend of yours, and they've played maybe a few roles, but small roles, but they just know, like you did, it clicked. This is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. Right. What advice would you give that specific person to kind of help guide them the next few years?
I would say go take as many business classes and workshops as humanly possible, because the one thing I find that actors, when they get into this, they forget that the majority of the entertainment business is business with a get this much entertainment. And so if you want to be somebody who has any sense of control for your career, you have to be involved in the business part. You have to be looking at, everything from marketing to what your agent's doing for you, to what happens when you're working, and the choices that are made that are not personal. They're normally based on financial need. If they're cutting characters, if they're even the simple idea that they come to set sometimes and they take photos, if you're included in that or not, you can save yourself a lot of heartbreak and a lot of feeling crappy if you can just understand where the business decisions are coming from.
Yeah.
So even if it's just, a couple workshops, or if you're somebody who's in university right now, get a business major. Don't quit because you get a role. Figure out how to finish that business degree. It will save you, and it will set you up for life. Because there's an local agent that posted a clip or something on Instagram the other day. Look how old I am. I'm like, a clip on Instagram. No, he posted something on Instagram and he just said, if you teach an actor to act, they'll wait for the phone. If you teach an actor to produce, they'll work forever. And it's true.
Oh, wow.
You want to be part of the business, involve yourself and learn business from every possible angle.
Love that. So tell everybody how they can find you and self-promote yourself.
Amazing. Thank you. Anything that I do is going to be at the Lisa, looks like Durupt, Durupt.
Mm-hmm.
Every handle, Twitter, Instagram. I wish I was involved more in Twitter. I tend to stick more to Instagram because I just find it fun. I've been told I should do the TikTok, but I'm not a TikToker. So definitely just Instagram is where you'll find what's genuine. There's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So the Lisa Durupt, because apparently Lisa Durupt exists in France. So she's not an actor. The Lisa.
Love that. And we really enjoyed having you on the show today. We definitely look forward to having you back down the road.
Anytime. Let me know when Blake's around. I'll hop on a call. It'll be good.
Sounds great.
Yeah, will do.
Thank you
so much for your time.
You're great. See you